Good morning, this is online learning for February 2nd, 2022. This is a list of things we're going to get done today. In reading, you're going to go back to Westlandia and be working on your Go sheet. In math, we'll be talking about adding and subtracting fractions, and we're going to be using cross multiplication. We'll have 2 math assignments, which will be in the attachments underneath the morning message. We'll also have some questions about the math on a Google quiz. In writing, we'll be back on our essay, Should We Have a 4-Day School Week? We haven't started writing on this. You'll just be rereading the sources again and choosing your 3 main ideas. Make sure you write those down on a sheet of paper. Save that so you have it to work on tomorrow. And you'll also need to know those for your Google quiz. And in science, you'll be finishing your space science project essay. Your final copy should be getting completed today, and those need to be turned into me. Don't forget to share your doc. All right, so let's go ahead and get into a little bit of curriculum. Today we're going to be talking about setting in reading. So setting is both time and place, and all stories have a time or place. So you're going to be thinking about this specifically with Westlandia. Did Westlandia happen in the past, the present, or the future? I will attach a video in the attachments underneath the morning message that goes over setting in case you have forgotten some of this. I think most of this will be quite familiar. On your Go sheet, you're going to find a section that looks like this, so you're just going to circle whether you think the story is happening in the past, present, or future, and then with your pencil you will write down where the story is happening, what place it's happening at. Right now is a good time to pause this video, go ahead and pull out your Wonders book, your pencil, and your Go sheet, and fill out this section of your Go sheet. Come back to the video when you're done. All right, guys, so we're going to continue on with setting. So in setting, another aspect of setting is scenes. Scenes is like multiple settings. So usually in a story, the story doesn't just happen in one spot. It kind of moves from place to place in the story. I want you to think about that with Westlandia. Where does the story begin? Where does it end? Where does it go in the middle? So I know from my own memory, thinking about Westlandia, that the story started with Wesley running down the sidewalk being chased by his tormentors. So on your Go sheet, you're going to find a section that looks like this. It says list the different scenes, chapters, or stanzas. Since we're reading a story, you're going to go ahead and circle scenes. And you guys are going to go ahead, you can copy this one I have here. It starts with him outside running from his tormentors, but I want you, with your own pencil, to list other scenes that happen in the story. Again, right now, go ahead and pause the video, go back to this section of your Go sheet, finish it up, and come on back. All right, guys, so lastly with scenes again. We talked about how it starts with Wesley running away from his bullies. So you're going to find this section of your Go sheet that asks basically, do you think it's important to the overall story that the scenes changed and why? So, thinking to the story of Westlandia, would have the story made sense and worked if Wesley had just stayed outside being chased by his tormentors the entire time? Did it need to move to other places? Like I know at one point he's inside his home. He goes into his backyard. Is it important that he moves to these other places? Why? If you don't think it's important, tell me why you don't think it's important. Again, right now is a good time to stop the video. Go finish this part of your Go sheet. This is the last section of the Go sheet we'll be working on today. So once you're done with it, you can go ahead and close up your Wonders book. We'll be moving on to math. All right, so here we are with adding and subtracting fractions. So we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting fractions using cross multiplication, but before we get there, I'm just going to do a little review about adding and subtracting fractions and how that works. This is something you would have learned in 3rd grade, reviewed in 4th grade. So as a reminder, when we add and subtract fractions, the first thing we need to do is check to see if they have the same denominator or bottom numbers. So you can see in our 2 examples here, I have 1/5 plus 1/5. They do have the same denominators. And in my subtraction problem down here, 9/10 and subtract 1/10, they also have the same denominators. If they have the same denominators, then you can just add them and subtract them. You don't have any other steps. I love when this happens, but it doesn't happen very often. Once we add them, there's some specific steps we have to take. So when we add and subtract fractions, if we have a common denominator, or when we have a common denominator, that means when the bottom numbers are the same, we keep that bottom number as our new denominator. So we have 1/5 plus 1/5, and our answer is also going to be a fifth. Here in the subtraction one, we have 9/10 subtract 1/10. Our denominator is still going to stay in tenths. When we add and subtract fractions, the only part that we actually add or subtract are the top numbers. So in this case, I can go ahead and add these 1 plus 1, and I get 2. So 1/5 plus 1/5 is 2/5. And the same with here, we have that same bottom number, so we can just go ahead and subtract, but we don't subtract the bottom numbers, we only subtract the tops. 9 subtract 1 is 8, and that's how I would add or subtract fractions if they have the same denominator. You have a math assignment that goes over adding and subtracting fractions with the same denominator. It's in your attachments underneath the morning message. Right now you need to pause this video, go complete that assignment, come back to this video when you're done. The assignment is called Adding and Subtracting Fractions. All right, so what do we do if the fractions have different denominators? Because like I told you, that's going to happen actually more often than them having the same bottom numbers. If that happens, what we have to do is we have to find what's called a common denominator. That means we need to make the bottom number the same for both fractions. Commonality, so when we talk about a common denominator, we're finding things that are the same. For instance, this little group of friends here, they have some things that are the same. They all have tails. They have 4 legs. They all have ears. Okay, they have things that are in common. When we're working with fractions, when we need to add or subtract them, they have to have something in common. And that common thing, the thing that's the same about them, has to be the bottom number. If they do not have the same bottom number, you cannot add and subtract them without some extra steps. All right, so today we're going to be talking about then how to add and subtract fractions when they do not have the same bottom number. And we're going to use something called cross multiplication or the butterfly method. It's a really simple way to do it, and it's definitely an easy way to show you how to add and subtract fractions while we're online. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this, and we're going to be breaking this down step by step. So when we start, of course, like always, if we're adding or subtracting fractions, the first thing we're going to do is check and see if our denominators are the same. Here we have a 3, we have a 6. No, they are not the same. So if they are not the same, we're going to start this process of cross multiplying or this butterfly method, and you'll see why it's a butterfly in the end. So the first step that we're going to do to get this common denominator or get something the same about them, and remember the thing that's going to be the same has to be the bottom. So to make something the same, to get the common denominator, we're going to multiply these bottom numbers together. So 3 multiplied by 6 is going to give us 18. And that is going to be our common denominator. That will be the bottom number when we finish up adding these fractions. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the next slide, and I will show you what we do next now that we have a common denominator. Okay, now that we have a common denominator, and I'm going to go ahead and just put that back onto this slide so you can see that. We took these two and we multiplied them, and we made a little butterfly bum, and we have 18 here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the numerator from this problem on the left, and I'm going to multiply it with the denominator of the problem on the right. And that's one of my butterfly wings there. And I'm going to put my answer in a little antenna for this guy. So I know 1 multiplied by 6 gives me 6. Okay. And then I'm going to do that again. I'm going to take this numerator on this side and multiply it with the denominator on this side. I get another set of wings. And I'm going to make myself a little antenna. And I know 3 multiplied by 2 gives me 6. Now I've got this cute little mathy butterfly. But what does all this mean? I still don't have an answer to my problem. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, and I'll show you how to put it all together. All right, guys, so I'm just going to catch us up to speed on the same steps we just had, so we know we multiplied the bottoms together. Just going to restate that again. I get this nice common denominator here of 18. I multiplied the numerator with the denominator. That gave me 6. And I multiplied this numerator with this denominator, and that gave me a product of 6. Now what I'm going to do to find my final answer is I'm actually going to add together the two little sets of antennae. 6 plus 6 gives me 12. And my common denominator, my little butterfly bum, that's going to stay the same. It's going to be 18. And I have now finished adding, oops, I didn't circle that very well, but I finished adding together fractions that did not have the same denominator. So once I know they do not have the same denominator, I'm going to try this little butterfly method. So let's try one more. All right, guys, so here's our last example, and we're going to just go through this one a little bit quicker. So again, I can see that I have a 5 and a 2, and those are not the same denominators. They're not the same, so I'm going to butterfly them. So I have 5 multiplied by 2, and that gives me a common denominator of 10. And that's kind of an awful looking 10. Hopefully you guys can see that's a 10. And I think I'm making it worse, but we'll keep going. I'm going to take this numerator here. I'm going to multiply it with the denominator here. 4 multiplied by 2. That gives me an answer of 8. And then this numerator here with this denominator here. And that gives me product of 5. And then I'm going to subtract, because that's what I had to do originally. So I do these 3 times tables and then I subtract. 8 subtract 5 gives me 3. And the common denominator that I found was 10. All right, right now would be a really good time to pause this video. You're going to go to your Google Classroom, and in the attachments underneath the morning message, you're going to find a math assignment called Adding and Subtracting with Different Denominators. You need to complete that assignment and then come back to this video. Okay, just to review, these are some things that will be on your math quiz. Don't forget to look through this slide. Just pause it, look through this slide, make sure you read through it so that you're aware of things that will be on that quiz. In writing today, like I said, you're just going to go back to the sources. They are in the attachments underneath the morning message. Reread through those, and you're going to be choosing 3 main ideas that you would like to write about when we actually start the writing process tomorrow. So right now would be a good time to pause this video, pull out a sheet of paper, open up those writing sources, and come up with your 3 ideas, and then put that somewhere safe so you have it for tomorrow. Okay, in science, you're going to continue to work on your science project. Remember, you are turning in your final copy today. You need to make sure that you share that with me on Google Docs. Epic is only open till 3, so if you're using that for your sources, you need to get on early. After today, we'll start working on our science project models, which could be drawings, an actual physical model, a digital display. We'll get into that a little bit more later. Right now is a good time to go ahead and pause this video, go ahead and work on that final copy. Make sure you get it shared with me. If you don't know how to share it, make sure you come on to Google Meet and I will help you then with it. All right, guys, and we are done. So at this point, this is the last thing I have for you. Just make sure that you read 1 picture book or finish a chapter book and get it into Biblionasium. Remember, our goal is to have 6 chapter books on our Biblionasium and 30 picture books. Make sure you add your reviews. And then also finish 1 lesson on Freckle in the fraction section. Remember, I do get an email from Freckle every day that shows me how long you were on, how many questions you're getting correct and incorrect. So make sure you take your time to get in the right section and do your best work. Right now, this will be the last part of the video, so you really don't have to pause. Just go ahead and log off this video and finish up your work for the day. I hope you have a wonderful day. Don't forget the Google Meet is from 9 to 11 in the morning if you need me, and if you need help after that, send me a message on Google Classroom and I will try to set up a meet with you one-on-one to help you. I can help you up until 2:45. Have a great day.